We have to provide a level of safety. Number one, because you need to build trust. You need to build rapport. So a conversation starts off here. That's where a conversation starts off. It doesn't start off here. It doesn't start off anywhere. It starts off with your own Wi-Fi, what you're feeling on the inside. If you're feeling distrusting, if you're feeling anxious, if you're feeling a sensation of anxiety, what do you think is going to be projected to the other person? That person is going to pick it up. So a conversation starts here. So Muhammad, a couple days ago or yesterday, you told me, okay, you walked into a conversation and you said, go ahead, take it over just for a second.
So it was actually an offer for a partnership. And I walked in, and I just remember you from a previous class where you said drop your want, and that's how I entered the class. I entered the negotiations. I dropped my want and I walked in, and I sat down, and I just kind of held on to a couple other things that you had mentioned. You know, projecting your Wi-Fi, trusting, protecting their interests as well as my own. So when the offer was given, I felt like they expected me to react in a certain way, but I held back, and I just allowed it to develop in a different way than typical, than what they were expecting to happen.
Very good. And what was the outcome? Was it to your liking? How did it evolve?
It was. So when they offered, because I was able to drop my want and focus, I was able to counter, and I was able to get my own offer across the table in a way better manner than I could have had I walked in there with just my want.
Very good. Very good. So it starts where? Lily, starts here. It starts with you feeling safe. When you drop the want, what happens inside here? That's the first thing that happens is here.
Confidence.
You feel safe. And you, what is it? Go ahead.
I was confident. I was way more confident.
100%. That's the result. You're going to see the 7 steps right now. Watch what's going to happen as we move forward through this. So the conversation starts where? Starts here. That's where the conversation starts. With you feeling safe. You walk in and you drop that want. You're going to feel safe. You're going to be less threatening to the other person. So you're who you are in that Wi-Fi that you project, you're less threatening to the other person. You want to negotiate, you're open. There's a sensation that the person picks up from you that's different. You're vibrating different. So when you do that, you drop the outcome, you drop the want, you drop the fear, you walk into a conversation to a much higher level of being able to influence. You're walking in, when you drop all those things, to have greater outcomes for anything that you want. When you drop the fear, drop the outcome, and drop your want. When you do that, what's going to happen in here? You're going to create what? Safety. What's this? Why is this important? Why is this the next level? So number 2, you have to create safety. Number 2 is being honest. Now, what happens when you're not honest with yourself? It's very difficult to be honest with other people. But why is honesty such an important thing that it's literally right next to the middle of the circle? Why is honesty and safety so close together?
People know when it's genuine, and sometimes they can pick up dishonesty as well from that Wi-Fi.
Excellent. Excellent. Beautifully said, by the way. So when someone is honest, Hadra said trust, correct? Would you ever trust someone who's dishonest? Ever? It's very difficult to trust anyone that's dishonest. So honesty is the key to creating what? Safety. Honesty. When you allow someone now, let's say the other person, when you're projecting safety, a trusting energy, you know what's going to happen? It allows the other person to be what? More honest. You guys are going to see a crazy video. When you just suggest honesty to someone, when you just tell them, listen, I just expect you to be honest with me. Just be fair with me. Just by saying that, such a powerful tool. You're going to see eventually in terms of what we're going to come up on. Just saying to someone, I expect fairness. I expect honesty. Just be very direct with me. One of the most powerful tools that you can use in terms of that. So now, when you have create a place of safety, you allow someone to be honest. You allow someone to be actually emotionally honest. That's what you want. You want emotional honesty. Emotional honesty is when someone is truly sharing their feelings with you. They're not doing tongue service and trying to go around, which you can. It's tactical. Sometimes you have to be. I'm not saying no. But at the end of the day, when you're sharing what's in here, it's really, really incredible when you share that. Okay? Now, 3, courage. The third level, there's a beautiful saying, and it states, it says, if characteristics were to be coupled, honesty would be with courage, and dishonesty would be with what? Cowardice. Why is that so important? Why does honesty breed courage? Why? Because what you're allowing the person to do when they are becoming honest, you allow safety. You let them feel safe that they can be honest. When they are honest, they are actually being courageous. These are the stepping stones. When you're allowing someone to be like this, when you're allowing someone to feel safe and you're not a threat, and then they become honest with their thoughts and their emotions, then they actually you're building inside of them, you're building courage. That courage is key, because you're going to see what that brings. Courage now what? Brings about confidence. When someone is confident, this is what Muhammad was saying earlier. When someone is confident, now you can sense this from people. You can literally sense it. You can feel it from another person. When they're confident, when they're actually speaking, you can sense their emotional states even. Okay? Number 4. I'm sorry, number 5. When you are confident, you're able to take responsibility. This is a key factor, by the way. Taking responsibility is allowing someone to say what? I'm responsible for this, and you're responsible for that. Now you go into a state of contribution instead of blame. Contribution is one of the most powerful things you can learn, that I contribute all the time. This creates accountability for your own actions. This creates reflection. This creates a whole bunch of stuff that you need just to master your own character. Responsibility is one of the key components. Okay? So when I'm confident enough to take responsibility for my own actions and the consequences that I actually have caused, then I'm becoming what? More fair. I'm becoming fair. I'm becoming just. People will look at me that way. When you, again, you're allowing, this is about somebody else. You're projecting this towards somebody else. When I can make someone feel safe, I can allow them to be honest. When they can be emotionally and mentally and emotionally honest, I'm building courage inside of them. When they are courageous, they're going to become more confident. If they are confident, they're going to take responsibility for the things that they don't do and the things that they do. And then from there, when they become more responsible, they're becoming more fair, because they're willing to tell you, listen, I messed up. I did this. I did that. Try to negotiate with someone who doesn't want to take any responsibility. Try to do that. Try to do that. Good luck. It's the worst conversation you'll ever have, because all they want to do is what? Blame, 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 blame. And they're always deflecting and always giving what? Excuses. That's exactly what they do. And they'll never make you feel like you're getting anywhere in the conversation. When the person does not take responsibility. And then when they're taking responsibility, what you're allowing that person to do is really reflect. And they're becoming really more authentic. They're really reflecting, taking responsibility for the things they owe and the things they're willing to give. And they're becoming more fair and they're becoming more just. And then Hajjah mentioned it first. When you allow someone to be feel safe, at the end, they give you the balance of trust. That's what happens. So first, here's what you need to do. Figure out the source of the fear to provide security. First thing you need to do in conversation, provide security for the other person. Okay? Number 2, feeling safe is to feel secure, to speak and act honestly. Number 3, honesty builds courage. Number 4, courage leads to confidence. Why? Because I'm confident. If I have courage, I'm willing to say the truth without fearing consequences. That's where this is a training process living inside here. You're allowing the person to become more empowered up here and to literally go against what's in here sometimes if they're feeling afraid. Number 5, confidence leads to taking responsibility, because I can tell you if something's for me or against me. I'm willing to say the truth. Now, taking responsibility enables me to be just and fair. And from there, becoming just and fair, a person becomes trustworthy. And now imagine you have a reputation. When you walk around, people say, that's trustworthiness walking. That person is trusted. What's gonna happen to your opportunities when you as a person are more trusted? This is about character development. This is all character development. This is about building rapport with others. This is about you going inside and figuring out who you are, okay? And how you actually ascend through these steps. By the way, this thing is not an easy thing. It's not. Because people's threat system is constantly looking for insincere people. It's constantly there. And when you as a person, those four languages of communication, when they are not in sync, excuse me, when your 4 languages, your behavior, your verbal, behavioral, emotional, and trust, when they're not in sync, you know what they're going to be picking up? Distrust. And remember, we said we can lose 93% of trust prior to entering conversation, prior to even saying one word. So this is what it's all about. Your bank account is here. Your relationships are here. Your health is here. Everything is about trust. Everything in this world is about trust. Who you trust. It could be yourself. It could be God. It could be another person. It's all about trust. Everything at the end of the day is about trust. Now, okay, what happens on the other side? People can go to the other side. Dishonesty, cowardice. From here, watch. These are opposites of these, okay? Courage, doubt, irresponsibility, injustice, somebody who's not fair, okay? You see the other side. Untrustworthy. Do these people exist, guys? They do. Do these people exist? They do. Okay? Now, you have to, if you're projecting this and you're going up here, trust me, you're going to find these people up here. And if you're projecting this, trust me, you can even do business with people down here. You can. You can do business, but they'll never be your friend. That person will never be your friend. There's always something that's going to block you. The people who get closer to you are the ones who are going to be up here. This is where you build relationships. Down here, there's always, you can do business, no problem. We can have an exchange, no problem. But it's very difficult to do what? To get close to a person like this. Very difficult. Try. I want you to try. Try to find somebody who's dishonest and say, you know what, I love you. I want to care for you. okay? Or somebody who's a coward when they leave you. You know what I mean? They're literally, it's somebody like you're getting jumped by 4 or 5 people and then they leave. They literally just leave. They leave you alone. And they're supposed to be like your boy. And I share a small little story with you guys. One of my just acquaintances way back then, I just knew one guy, and these guys pulled up next to them in a parking lot. Here's the parking lot. This guy's in the driver's seat right here. They pulled up to this side right here. My friend is here. The acquaintance is here. He's driving. He's sitting in the passenger seat. The guys pull up. They point a gun at this guy. They want the truck. This guy just gets out of the car. And you know what he does? Doesn't warn my friend. Just takes off. Just leaves. Just runs. Doesn't even say anything to him. The guy gets out of the car. He goes, where do you think he goes? He literally goes towards the guys. He doesn't even know what's going on. Like, what happened? He doesn't even understand what's happening. Is that the kind of friend you want? But that's when you know who your friends are. That's when you know when you're really in trouble, is when you know, is that person going to step up or not? This is all about character. This is all character. Okay? So now, I'm going to take you into this a little bit further. But first, I want you to watch this. Now, providing a sense of safety is when a person feels emotionally regulated. They feel emotionally sound. So Hamish or Andreas or anybody you got, whenever you're doing any kind of business, whenever you're doing any kind of sales, that threat system is on. Going into a conversation that's a negotiation is very threatening. It's threatening. It's threatening for people. Husband and wife, threatening. It can be very threatening. It's about control. I don't want to lose control. Brother, sister, control. It can all conversations can lead to these kinds of things. Now, I want you to see one powerful tool that you guys can use in this video to actually give. I'll let you just watch it, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so what I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna stop sharing. And a lot of you told me last time that it's better if I just share the whole video, the whole screen. Just give me 1 second. Can you guys see it? I can't see you guys now, so can you guys see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah.
Is it bigger?
Yeah, it's bigger.
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
The natural order of things. We put 15 high school kids into a tempting situation to see if they'd lie.
We told them we wanted to test the relationship between height and coordination.
That was, in fact, a lie.
First, we measured height. Next, we invited them to toss beanbags through 3 holes of decreasing size.
And to make it more interesting, we told them we'd pay them $3 for each beanbag they got through the smallest hole, $2 for middle-sized, and $1 for the biggest hole.
And to make it tempting, we asked them to track their own scores.
Do you see where we're going with this? But to keep it scientific, we used a hidden camera to watch what really happened.
Watch this kid. Here's his actual score. And listen to his report.
What was your score?
3 3s, 2 2s.
That's a 240% lie.
But this young man claimed that out of a possible $15, he had earned...
What was your score? 16? Yeah.
All told, 80% of the subjects lied.
And the irony here is that most of these subjects had just finished a Bible study class. So what's going on? Are these just bad kids? Do we lie just because we can? Here's some BS you can use.
When we and others lie, we typically attribute it to a moral defect.
Well, I do. I think either I'm evil or more likely, he's evil. We watch others tell lies, and we think they must just have a cankered soul.
The psychologist Albert Bandura suggests much of our problem isn't moral defect, but moral slumber. In other words, we're capable of making good moral choices, but we just aren't thinking about this choice as a moral one. We're morally asleep.
You know, this is a pretty big idea, because if it's true, we need to spend less time judging each other and more effort alerting each other. But would that work?
Next, we brought in 15 more kids and gave them the same instructions.
The only change this time was we asked them to promise to be honest. We assured them they were on their own, but invited them to indicate their commitment by signing an honor code. That's the moral wake-up call.
Now, watch what happens. Here's the star of the high school basketball team, a boy named Jake, and he scores! And he reports
6.
He faces humiliation with honesty.
In this condition, the results were reversed. This time, 80% told the truth.
That's staggering. They traded money for morality willingly. So what's the point?
Many of our moral lapses aren't conscious, but mindless. It isn't that we compromise our conscience, it's that our conscience is asleep. It's left the building.
We can make the world a more moral place by simply judging less and talking more. We can assume others just aren't aware and give them and us a moral wake-up call.
A little nudge to invite them to bring values they already hold to a specific decision. But you have to do it in the right way.
Not a lecture, not a command, a polite reminder, preferably prior to the moment of decision. Well, let's say you're getting an estimate for a car repair. Don't shy away from saying, it's very important to me to be treated fairly. May I have your word that you will look out for my interests?
There's a big message here for leaders. If you aren't frequently infusing workplace decisions with appropriate moral meaning, you and your people will likely drift off into moral slumber.
So you have two options. Either offer moral wake-up calls or invest more in auditing.
What was your score? 16? Yeah.
I'm David Maxfield.
All right. What did you guys think?
What I picked up from that video is that, if you just, when you say those words like you said, so just be honest with you, or I expect you to be honest, it wakes up that giant in their brain with their moral compass. So it turns on that system when you say those words. That's what I took away.
Beautifully said. Very good. What do you guys think? Everybody, I want everybody to comment real quick.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they talk about your consciousness going to sleep. Like, we always think that we're 100% being that's not something that kind of just drifts away. We're more thinking of it more as it's a choice.
Okay.
At all times.
Very good. Very good. We do really think that way. We think it is a choice, but we actually lose. There's a beautiful thing. And it says, reminding is good. And think about that. It's really, really amazing when you think about that stuff. So reminding someone is constantly good. But you're absolutely right. We actually fall asleep consciously of our morality. So think about that. Okay, what else? What else do you guys think?
It said that 80% of the contestants lied. I don't know why, but I just wasn't surprised.
Very, very good. What else?
What I liked was the fact that they mentioned to be polite as a reminder.
Yes.
Rather than scold somebody.
Very, very good. Very good, man. That's an excellent point, by the way. Excellent point. Because if you're reminding someone to be honest, so imagine someone fell asleep. They're actually asleep morally. And then you tell them, listen, all I want you to do is just be completely honest with me. The first thing, when let's say this is the first time I met someone, they call me, let's say, on the phone. And they're just talking to me the first, I don't know them. And they're like, listen, I need help with this or whatever. The first thing I tell them I need your honesty. If you can't, look, sometimes, if I feel like they're going to be dishonest, I literally tell them, if the first time I catch you lying to me, you better hang up before I do, because I will catch you eventually. I'm actually threatening dishonesty. So what am I forcing? I'm forcing it, and that's why when people like with me, I have a tendency, like in 5 minutes, for someone to like spill out the whole guts to me. And why? Because I don't present myself as a threat. I present, like literally in here, I present myself as someone who's really trying to help you. I'm not trying to hurt you. But just what you're doing by being dishonest is you're hurting yourself. You're not hurting me. You're hurting yourself. Because now I have to look and imagine like you're taking me through a maze of dishonesty. And that's what you're doing to me. And I have to figure that out. I have to go around everything. Then I have to connect things. And I'm watching you. And I'm watching your behavior. I'm watching your language. I'm hearing you in a different way. And if I'm sensing you in a certain way as well, and if these things are not computing properly, then I'm going to enter the maze with you. And I'm going to catch you. One way or another, I'm going to catch you. Because I'm just I put in thousands and thousands of hours into that. You're not going to get away. And eventually I'm going to catch you in the maze. But some people, I swear to you, they're like a fish in water trying to catch them. They're so good. They'll literally hide right in front of you. They'll hide right in front of you and you can't see them. And they're that good. And you never enter the maze where you see a million mirrors. You ever seen that in the movies? That's how they are. They'll literally give you a million directions. And they're like, no, I'm here. No, I'm here. That's not who they are. They're literally trying to paint a picture for you. And that's not who they are. That is the person that is scary. That's the person who you really like. And if their heart has crossed over to a certain level that they don't care about your interest, they don't care about you, they don't have no moral code, their heart is really dead, man, that's a monster. That's a human being that just has nothing to serve but their own self-interest. That's a scary person. Hopefully you don't come across people like that. I have. Okay? Now, all I'm saying to you is when a person takes you into that maze, when you can get to the truth, it's a beautiful thing because they'll give you the whole map of their maze and you can see it. And it's much easier to navigate. But the first thing you need is trust, which is created by honesty. And there's a famous, beautiful thing. It's one thing you want to be is you want to be honest and you want to be trustworthy. Those are beautiful attributes. And when you have those attributes, it's an incredible thing to have. You want to be a trustworthy person who is honest. You want that reputation. And since now we can label ourselves as adjectives and you can identify as you want, whatever you want, I'm telling you guys right now, I'm identifying as a trustworthy person and I'm an honest person. Those are my adjectives, okay? This is what I want you guys to identify. I'm choosing to identify this way, okay? It's very difficult to be given these titles. It's not, you can't just say, hey, I don't lie, or people have to check you on these kinds of things and you have to get tested. You can't just label yourself as someone who's like that, okay? Now, it's very powerful also when you can get to a point where even your enemies trust you. Think about that. Imagine that you have an enemy that actually trusts you. They'll trust you with their belongings more than they trust their friends. That's an incredible person. That's not a normal person anymore. So, but that's a level of strength that's in here that's unmatched. Walk into a conversation with someone who's like that. Try to walk into a conversation with someone who possesses those emotions. Try to make them waver off who they are and their character. It's very, very powerful to have certain emotions that you're not moving off the line. That is pride. That is character. That is when someone does not quit. That is what they're talking about when, and motivational speakers and all these, that's what they're really talking about. It's the ability to tell the self no. That's the essence of everything. The second you do that and you're able to tell yourself no, and you're being honest with yourself and you say, you know what, why did you go here? Why did you do this here? Where did you go up here? Why? When you looked at this person, let's say I'm talking to the guys now. When you looked at this woman, okay, where did your eyes go? I'm not saying you guys here. Everybody here is amazing, right? Okay, but it's incredible when you start tracking yourself up here. It's incredible. And then you begin to reflect on these things. And when you're sitting down and you begin to understand yourself at a greater level, and you're like, I'm not going to do that again. That's where it all starts. And then when you can walk into a conversation and you could drop your want, and then you project this code of confidence, strength, ability. And I'm willing to walk away from the table. And it doesn't matter. You give me this, doesn't matter. You give me that, it doesn't matter. I lose this, it doesn't matter. Now I have indifference. For sales, if you can gain that emotion of indifference, emotion, not mentally being indifferent. A lot of people know what indifference is in sales. Not many people can attain indifference emotionally in sales. Not many people. But if you can walk into any conversation in here, indifferent, it's incredible what happens to you. It's incredible. Okay. So, all right, I'm going to go back to here to the presentation. Give me 1 second. All right. So, all right. So now, security is number 1. Honesty is number 2. Now you guys kind of know how important honesty is, because in here, honesty is the first level of creating indifference. When you could drop your want and you're actually cognizant of what's happening inside of you here, then you're dropping your want, you're being honest with yourself, it doesn't matter. I have reliance on something that's greater than whatever the situation is. I have reliance. Emotionally, I'm indifferent. It doesn't matter to me anymore. I'm dropping the outcome, emotionally dropping the outcome. When you can do that, now you become a negotiator. When you can actually drop the outcome, to drop the fear, to feel indifference in here, now you're becoming more secure in here. This is the beginning levels of strength, which leads to what? Courage. All right. Okay, very good. So now, come on. Okay, so now, third level we said is courage. Okay, when we can enter this, it's very important that you understand this. The beginning steps of courage is being honest. So for you to become courageous, the number one thing, if you are in sales, if you are a manager, if you are a leader, if you are any one of these things, the number one thing you want to inject into any other person is courage. That's the number one thing. You want to get anyone to perform in any which way. You want to inject them with courage. Courage is the key component. Why? Because when you are courageous, you are moving past the fear. So one thing I always tell people, and please pay attention to this. And if you're having someone who wants to present, someone who's going to work, let's say door to door, sales, somebody who's going to get on the phone call and then they're having a hard time because the fear is injecting them, literally. What you want to go against the fear is anger. You want to get them angry. So when I used to, let's say, when I had certain positions and someone needs to present something and it's the first time they actually presented it, or something that they're just afraid to be in front of people. So what I would do is this. I would actually get them into a state of anger. I would actually piss them off. I would do something to irritate them. I would do something to get on their nerves. And then I swear to you, they'd walk in and they'd kill it. They'd kill it. They're like, because they don't care anymore. One guy, I pissed him off so much. I swear to you, he was almost going to leave. I literally just, I irritated. He was so afraid. So I had to push so hard. But he was literally walking out the door. I'm like, you walk out. I literally threatened him. I had to threaten him. But I can't let him know what I'm doing because it ruins everything. So I said, you leave, watch what's gonna happen. And he backed off, right? He came back in. He went in, and I swear to you, I've never seen this guy present like that. He didn't care. He didn't care. And he was like, the CEO was asking him questions. He's like, it doesn't matter. He goes, this is what you have to do. He took charge like completely, did not care about who's in front of him. And he's like, the CEO came in and after was like, man, where'd you get this guy? He's so good. He said, he was terrified. He was terrified. He couldn't even get two words together. But I got to him so bad that he just what? He didn't care anymore. So when you do that in here, it's a beautiful thing but you got to be very careful when you do this, because if you push people the wrong way and you don't know how to regulate them, then afterwards, man, you're gonna be in trouble. But inject that person with courage. Sometimes you need just to what? Get them to just walk into the situation. And then when they actually do that, a different part of their brain activates. Because when the fear center activates, it's different than the courage centers of the brain. When the anger centers of the brain activate, it's different than the fear centers of the brain. So you're actually getting them to maneuver psychologically with different regions of the brain that actually take over. And I don't know why this is not working. Man, this is a great video. Shoot. Okay, and it's here. So this video is basically about, let me try to remember.
Refresh, Wissam. Maybe it'll load again.
Okay, hold on.
You're on mute.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so this video basically says this. Okay, when you're being when you are mentally and emotionally honest, you begin to build courage. Courage is necessary for you to actually get anywhere in life. You have to now learn how to inject with people with courage. Okay, to speak from the core of your personality. You're actually becoming you. This, when they say finding your own voice, it's really finding the courage to state what you believe is true, mentally and emotionally, and without shading your character. This is when you begin to speak from here. That requires courage. Okay, courage is connected to adrenaline and neuroadrenaline. What that means, it's a different neurochemical than cortisol. So when I tell you you're genetically encoding yourself, what you release in certain situations, when we talked about epigenetics earlier, this is what's happening. You're going to see a lot of these chemicals begin to activate, and whatever regions of the brain you activate at particular moments, it's either get you to freeze, flight, or fight. This video talks about that with courage. So this video talks about 3 levels. Let me ask you guys really quickly. Let me test you. Which stress response, these are all 3 stress responses. Which one is the most stressful? Is it the freeze response, the flight response, or the fight response? Which one's the most stressful?
Freeze.
Freeze.
Freeze? Okay, who says freeze? Raise your hand real quick. I want to see everybody. So Hajra, Hamad, okay, almost everybody. Okay, what else? Okay, almost everybody. So, all right, so you're wrong. Okay, so the freeze response is not the most stressful. It's actually the least stressful. And when it's when, think about when you're freezing, think about when you're having a conversation. Listen, for those who are married, when you have a girlfriend, okay? Think of when you're having a conversation with your wife or your girlfriend, and she says something, and you're like, and you just freeze. You literally don't even, because you know it's like a trap. You know it's like something. If I go this way, it's a problem, and if I go this way, it's a problem. I know I have no good options here, and she cornered me, and I don't know how to think. What's that?
No, sorry.
So now, what do? You freeze. You literally freeze because she just activated your fight or flight system. Okay, but that freeze response is really the least stressful response. Okay. Now, number 2 is actually the flight response. Think of like when you're hiding in a closet. Okay, you're playing hide and seek. Okay, and what cats do? Actually, I just reminded me of this. You know what cats do to actually remove the freeze response from mice? So what they actually do is this. They chatter their teeth to get a mouse to move. They actually chatter their teeth to activate the what? Not the freeze response, to activate the actual response of the flight. So they need movement because they want to see where the mouse is at. So it's incredible now what's happening to your own what? Biology inside of you, in your own physiology. So now, what do you have to do to actually induce courage? Is you have to step into that fight mode. That's the most stressful, by the way. The most stressful is the highest level where it's the fight mode. The flight is less stressful. The most stressful is actually the fight mode. Now what happens is there's actually the highest form of performance, guys, is in the flight mode. I'm sorry, is in the fight mode. Did I lose you guys? Did I lose you guys?
No, we're here.
We're good.
Okay. So the highest level of performance is when you can induce courage when you're where? In that mode. That's the key. And there's actually a bump of performance when you have anxiety. Then you actually go against it and you have resilience. Then there's performance. Guys, there's another bump way down here. That bump is when you can actually go into the highest level of stress and then produce results. That's a whole nother being. That's somebody who's not afraid. That's somebody who's worked on this so much on the inside character that they're not going to maneuver. They're literally, you know this person's answer before you even ask them. That is a whole nother level of performance. But that's what this video is I try to show next week if I can. Okay? Now, you're training your brain. Every time you are honest, you become more courageous. So you're actually injecting yourself with more opportunity in the future. The more you could do that, the more powerful you're actually becoming in here. Okay? Now, come on. All right. Confidence. I want you guys to look at this real quick. When you are more courageous, you're becoming more confident. Okay? This is the key of courage. You become more authentic. Authenticity, okay, is when you have courage to speak and feel what is genuinely, what you genuinely think. You are becoming true to who? Number one, yourself. You. Okay? Embracing your authentic self and expressing your thoughts without fear, judgment, or rejection can boost what? Your self-esteem and what? Self-confidence. So you see how courage is a necessary component. Okay? This is neuroscience, by the way. Here. Okay? Now what? Courage is needed for confidence to exist because it's the opposite of fear. I'm not going to get into that too much. Neurotransmitters responsible is serotonin. Okay? Saying the truth, even if it's against what? Your own interest. that is when you're becoming more fair. But you're becoming more what? Authentic. This is authenticity now being what? Projected. And when you are like that, and people can sense this word from you right here, authenticity, it's incredible what people will give you. The opportunities that open up is incredible, especially if you're trying to be promoted, especially if you're trying to move up in terms of from one stage to another. If you're in a negotiation, if you're doing, this is key. And I think everybody wants us, every person wants us to be what? Authentic. Every person wants you to be authentic with them. That's what we all seek that. Okay. So now responsibility. I want to go through this. This is one of the most powerful probably slides on here. Okay. Taking responsibility requires the confidence to say the truth, even if it's against yourself. This is the beginning step of responsibility. When I can say the truth, even if it harms me when it benefits me, I truly become an individual and have earned the mental and emotional strength that is necessary to become me. I'm literally becoming an individual now. I'm becoming a person. I'm becoming a person who actually has character. This is the beginning steps of character. Okay, now watch this. Agency and intentionality. This is one of the most beautiful things that I get to do, because this is where I go into my research. Okay. Neuroscientific studies, research suggests that the prefrontal cortex, particularly the dorsolateral, prefrontal cortex, is involved in the experience of agency and intentionality. This brain region is responsible for planning, decision-making, and goal-directed behavior. Think about that. Think about if you're in this region of your brain. This is where you feel what? As a person, you feel like you have control. You feel like you have character. This is a different region of your brain. When you feel like that, you're actually activating a different part of your brain versus when you are fearful. Versus when you are fearful of what? Consequences. When you're going to lie or when you're going to cheat. There's a different part of your brain that releases different chemicals that create certain behaviors that end up with certain results versus someone who's what? Activating this part of their brain. And they become more courageous. They release more chemicals, different chemicals, which is adrenaline and noradrenaline. And now you see different behavior. This person, but still they're calm, they're collected, and they actually gain what? Different results. I just want you to see that you're actually navigating your own brain. When you're making decisions, you're actually navigating your own brain. This is the mental map in here that you have to navigate first. And when you're choosing certain decisions and you're saying, I want to be honest or I want to be dishonest, you're going to a different region in your brain. You're activating different neurochemicals in your brain. And the results are going to be different. I want you to just understand that. Okay? So when you begin to take responsibility, you're actually beginning to activate these kinds of things in your mind. Now, blame and punishment. This is beautiful to me. I love this part. Okay? What happens here when I'm taking responsibility? I'm becoming more just. I'm actually activating the right side of my brain in terms of my moral code. I understand what's going on. Okay, blame and research on attributions of blame and the neural mechanisms of punishment suggests that the brain reward and punishment systems play a role in determining responsibility. So we're actually assessing. Remember the consequences I told you about? Remember when I told you drop the want, Muhammad? This is right here. When you're dropping the want, what are you doing? Because this part of the brain is not activated anymore. You're that whole assessment. Now, the ventral striatum, which is involved in reward processing, and the anterior insula associated with aversive processing are implemented in the evaluation of others' actions and the assessment of blame or punishment. So there's actually parts of your brain that go into this mode and assess, am I going to get punished? Am I going to get blamed? Am I going to react in a certain way? What am I going to do? Am I going to put up a front? Am I going to take that responsibility? Am I going to do these things? Well, what happens when you drop your want and you're actually telling yourself, I am responsible for this. I've contributed in this way. This whole side, the way it activates is completely different. You are engineering yourself every single moment you make a decision. Bottom line. All right. I'm almost done. When you are beginning to take responsibility for my own actions, I can say when I'm wrong, and I can say when I think and I feel is right. Okay, I become just and fair. My only agenda is the truth for me or against me. No selfish means or ends are within my intention. This is not an easy state to get to, guys. It's not. Because our intentions can sometimes be mixed. They can mix. I can be 40% for myself, 40% for others. This is the core of character, guys, right here. When you're actually being fair. So what are you doing when you're actually in that video when they said when you're asking someone to be fair? You know what you're doing? Watch this. Moral decision making. Watch what you're activating. You're activating this part of their brain. Okay. Neuroethical studies investigate the brain's processing involved in moral decision making and moral responsibility. Regions such as the ventral medial prefrontal cortex, anterior cingulate cortex, and the insula have been implicated in moral reasoning and the assessment of right and wrong. Damage these or dysfunction of these areas can affect an individual's moral judgments and their perception of responsibility. So when you're asking someone, please just be direct, be honest. You know what you're asking them to do? You're actually asking them to think. And you know when they said like their brain is actually on autopilot? It is. But you're reminding them, please just have my interest at hand. I'm going to take care of you. Take care of me. This is very powerful. Okay. Now, development perspective, neuroscientific research and moral development indicates the brain undergoes significant changes throughout the childhood. Okay. Childhood, adolescence, impacting the development of moral reasoning and responsibility attributions. Okay, the administration regions, executive functions, moral contribute to. Okay, so right here is very important. Okay, when you actually become more mature, as a kid is becoming more mature, it contributes to the gradual development of moral sophistication, sense of responsibility. This all begins where? This right here, the development of perspective is by being able to tell the self no. So if you're raising kids, what you want to do is teach them how to what? Tell themselves what? Forget all this scientific jargon. Just teach them how to tell themselves what?
No.
What a word. Okay? N-O. Okay? Then if they do that, they flip the O, then they can turn on life, man, and it's incredible what they can do. Okay? It's really, really beautiful when somebody can actually do this. Last thing, when people can actually do this for you, you know what they do? They will actually hand you the gift of trust.
Wissam, you froze. I don't know if you can hear us. Can you guys all hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay.
Froze for a second.
Hear me now? All right. So the last thing here, guys, is when somebody hands you the gift of trust, man, they're handing you the gift of life. And Why is that the case? Is because it's very, very powerful when someone can actually hand you their trust, because they're becoming vulnerable. And when they become vulnerable, and then you can reinforce that trust by actually going through the process of honesty and then creating amazing results for that person, that creates a stronger relationship. So when someone hands you trust, and then you can reinforce trust by behaving and acting in a way that reinforces the outcome that they trusted you with, that creates relationships, and then that creates reliability. They see you as reliable. And when someone sees you as reliable, they'll hand you opportunity. So very cool concepts to just kind of think about, go through, reflect on. This will actually take us through part 3. I think we're done with part 3 on this. Next week we'll go through part 4, and then and I think yes, that is done. Okay. All right, guys. I hope you're all gonna be truthful moving forward and see the power of the truth, because I'm gonna start preaching over here now, and. But this is really about character. So we have 4 relationships. The relationship with a higher power, which is God. You have your relationship with yourself. You have your relationship. There's 5 relationships. So relationship with God, relationship with the self, relationship with others, relationship with nature, and relationship with temptation. And those 5 relationships, they have to be in a hierarchy. And those 5 relationships, this form of study right now, what you're going through, is about the relationship with the self that's built on the inside. That relationship is when you can have character that shines to the outside, and it doesn't maneuver, it doesn't change. Your belief structure is what gets displayed to the world through these 4 languages of communication. And you're either going to adhere to your principles and feel great and beat the challenge, or you're going to succumb to the challenge and feel guilt and shame, and sometimes even humiliation. But it all starts here. Character building is the second relationship prior to the godly relationship. Okay? That's if you believe in God, but I'm just saying. At the end of the day, hopefully all of you believe in God. If not, no big deal. I'll see you on the other side. And maybe we'll both go into the abyss, that darkness that's never ending, you know? But it's at the end of the day, just understand how this stuff works, so you begin to generate these emotions in particular moments. And this stuff has to come to you guys. It has to come to you when you're in the situation. Otherwise, you just rented the ideas right now, and they're not yours. When you actually own the idea, and I've talked about this before, when you own the idea is when the idea comes to you when you need it. The key comes to you to open that particular door, which is a challenge. When you need it. You're not fondling through a million keys, trying to what? Oh, it's not this one. Oh, it's not this. No. When you truly have wisdom is when you can search inside your mental map, know exactly what key to pull out to that particular challenge. That is wisdom. That is application of knowledge. That is going through things much faster than the next person. That's why you learn. That's why you go through classes like this. That's why you understand these things, so you can push forward and you can actually develop your life at a greater level. All right, guys. That's it for me. Any comments, concerns? I know this stuff is just amazing. I know you guys are just eating it up. Like, it to me is just, I can see it off your faces, those just shining faces. It's amazing, the bright lights that are just coming out. Except, you know, Andreas, because he's too good for us. He's, you know. Anyways, what do you guys think? Give me comments, concerns, questions, and then we'll go from there.
I have one brief announcement actually before we get into that.
Sure.
Everyone, I've sent out the quiz like a half hour ago. I couldn't get it out at the beginning of class. I The answer key wasn't made up yet. That's my fault. But you can send in your response anytime by the end of today. Yep.
Thank you. Thank you. All right. What do you guys think?
So the first one you said it was relationship with God, then yourself, others, and nature. What was the fifth one?
With temptation, relationship with temptation. So those are a hierarchy. If you look at here, I'll explain this real quick. If you look at the 6 categories, if you look at the first category, finances, second category, relationships, third category, character development, fourth category, spirituality, fifth category is your community and general network. Sixth category is your health. Now your wealth and your, so the number one, so those 6 will go into 3 categories, which is your spirituality, which is your relationship with God. Second one is relationships, which is your relationship with your character development, which is you, and your community, which is those 2 categories fall underneath that one. And the third one, and also your health. And the third one is your relationship with others, which is also your community. But these are literally will fall, and all those 6 will fall into one, which is your security. Where do you derive your security from? Which is when the world leaves you, when you are on your deathbed and you can't help yourself, where do you go from there? Who do you trust? This is where you now have to go into philosophy, spiritual success, understanding how ontology works, theology, going to these kinds of mechanisms wherever. So all those 6 categories will feed into one category, which is you have to answer 3 basic questions. Where did I come from? Where am I going? And where am I in between? Those 3 questions. A 3-year-old or 5-year-old will literally ask these questions. These are innate questions. And when your kid starts to ask you, hey, Dad, where did I come from? What's going to happen why did grandma die? Where is she? Where's she going? And you're like, I don't know, son. Okay. See, basic questions, but every human being will actually answer these questions. This is where you go into philosophy, which studies the subject of philosophy is existence. And why do I exist? This is now a greater level of understanding who you are, which builds the first relationship to the second relationship to the third relationship. Now, what we do, a lot of people, and I'm sorry, in these times, what they do is they take the third relationship, with the relationship with others, and they try to make it their sense of security. And they think that that is love. But what happens when a person turns on and off the attention? They pull away the attention, and then they give you the attention. And now you're an addict for that attention, because that becomes your form of security, which it should never come from that. A person who's intact in here doesn't have security issues with people, and they're not really dependent on people emotionally. They don't have emotional voids that need to be filled. They're much stronger in here. And when they're in here, they have amazing relationships, by the way. And I love when someone, I have, to me, the best thing about life, in my life, is I have amazing relationships with people. I love a lot of people. And a lot of people like me, I guess, you know, maybe they like me, I don't know. But maybe I'm telling myself these things. But at the end of the day, I just have genuine relationships with people. I love my relationships with people. I do. I have people call me and say, hey, man, how you doing? We have a conversation. It just makes your day. It could be 2 minutes. It could be 2 hours. But it's so cool, okay? But it's about getting those relationships right within yourself first. So having that hierarchy when it's proper, then when you can have that sense of security on the inside, and that's why I tell you, like, I'll say this, and maybe this will put it in perspective real quick. I asked this kid, he was 17, and he was having a lot of trouble. He kept beating up these kids. He kept beating them up and beating up like bad. And his father called me and he said, he actually loses consciousness and he's beating someone out. Like literally just he loses it. He can't even remember what he did. So I asked him these 3 questions. I said, do you trust other people? He's like, no. I'm like, do you trust yourself? He's like, no. I said, do you trust God? He's like, no. What's after that? What do you say to somebody? There's nothing left. Then I asked him, I said, if you can't help yourself and others can't help you, where do you go in your mind? Where's your sense of dependency? See, now you have to start answering questions like that. This is why the relationships are so important. Now, I'm not going to get into, spirituality and these kinds of things. We can if you guys want to. I don't mind, because that's your essence of safety and security. Okay? That's your essence there. The number one place, if you believe in God, what that gives you is this. It's a sense of security. It's a sense of safety. That's what God should do for you. When you find God's address in your heart, when you're going around in your own mental map and your own belief structure, and you're searching in your ocean because you found your submarine, and now you're deep diving into your own personality. And now you're looking for who? You're looking for a place of safety. That place of safety is God's address. Okay? Because that's the number one thing God will give you is safety, which what we were talking about earlier. When you can then have that, then you have trusting emotional energy that you project to the world. You're precautious up here, but then you're projecting from in here. And then you can open up your chest to the world, and it doesn't matter. Like as a let's say as a male, as a leader, as somebody who wants to, and I'm not talking about females here, just saying women can be leaders as well. The leadership doesn't have a gender. It doesn't. The heart doesn't, courage doesn't have a gender. So at the end of the day, when you actually can hold yourself and you're not afraid and you're vulnerable because you're not afraid on the inside. That comes from a special place in here. That takes a lot of work in here. That's where you get that from, in here. So I'm not going to go into that any further, because if you have any questions outside this class, we could talk about these things, no problem. It's cool with me. Okay, if you guys want me to actually go into this a little bit deeper, I can do that. Okay, I've taken a lot of philosophy, I've taken a lot of psychology just to understand these kinds of things and how they work. And they can become a little intricate in terms of how this stuff actually is aligned. But if you align yourself on that deeper level, man, it's something very, very special. Okay. All right. Cool. Not cool. Did I lose you guys? And this is boring. Oh, God, it's talking about whatever these things. Talk to me about business. I don't want nothing to do with this stuff. Anyways, any questions? Anybody want to comment? Go ahead.
Yeah, I had a question. Which stress response is the best? Since you said there was 3 levels to it, I think you said the freeze one was the less stressful, then the second one was the flight, and then the fight.
So
yeah.
I'll give it this way. The least stressful response is the freeze response. The next stressful response is the flight response. And then the most stressful response is the fight response. If you can go towards the fight response, and I'm not telling you to fight people here, that's not what it means. It means being wise to know when to approach, when you're actually afraid, when you're having irrational fear. If you are having irrational fear, meaning you should step forward, you should approach, but you're afraid and you actually avoid, this is the best situation. Where you walk into the situation with courage and you're going against the fear. So if you fear something, there's a beautiful saying. It says, if you fear something, dive straight into it, because the intensity of abstaining from it is greater than you actually going through it. So let's say you said something and I assumed about you, Noreen, for 3 years. I assumed that you said something that hurt me. I held that for 3 years, but all it would take me is what? 10 seconds of courage to just actually walk up to you and tell you, Noreen, did you say this about me? 10 seconds. But look at what if I abstain from that, look how much I have to care. Now, every time I see you, what's going to happen? Oh my God, there she is. Oh my gosh, she talked about me. The whole system's going to run through my mind again. And all I have to do is just come up to you and say, yeah, did you say this about me? They're like, no, I wasn't even that place. And imagine then what happens. So when a situation presents fear, and then you are overcome with fear, and you go into a state of irrational fear, this is where you have to inject yourself with courage to step up and demur through that courage against that situation. And then when you do that, that's the highest level of performance, by the way. This is when you can perform at your highest level. And this is where you begin to build self-respect at a higher level. Because now you're standing up for yourself. You're able to set boundaries. You're able to do these things at a different level with people. You're able to actually challenge certain situations that you wouldn't normally challenge. Does that make sense? I hope I answered your question.
Yes, you did. I just want to know which one was more beneficial. And it's the fight one, but fight wisely.
Yes, very, very, very wisely. Not just wisely, very wisely. Okay, know how to pick your battles and know when to walk away. Sometimes there's a beautiful saying, it states, it goes, so much of speech, its answer is silence. It's very beautiful when you learn how to use silence. Silence is a very powerful tool, very powerful. But you got to know, like, and there's another saying, and it says, the wiser you become, the more silent you become. I'm having a problem with that because I can't stop myself from speaking. So, but it's these kinds of things are just, it's really, really incredible when you start to actually download these things into your character. So, any other questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, when I was watching the video, there's this study that kind of popped up into my head, like where they were talking about like how people do like very horrific things because they're ordered to and stuff like that. It was like a test. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but
yeah, I am actually.
Where they put a person in a room and then they have another person in a different room, and every time that person answers wrong, they're supposed to shock them.
Yeah.
And it was showing stuff like that. Is that
where they actually get to a point where they're actually killing the person.
Yeah, where but the other person's like an actor, and
yes.
Yeah, and it was like this correlation of like when people are told to do something, they will continue to do it, whether it's morally right or wrong. Is that because when we're told to do something, it shuts off our moral compass, or like?
So this is the power of suggestion, man. This is really the power of the people who are around you are very important. But yeah, the study so they have another person in the room, and the person is supposed to apply. Has anybody seen the study, by the way? Anybody seen it? Okay. It's pretty much where it goes. You have to apply shock to the other person. And then the person, I'm not sure, but they're told that they have a heart condition, I think, or something like that. Or eventually it's told. I think one of the studies actually showed that. But then the person keeps applying the shock at a higher and higher and higher level. And the person is not. And some people stop. Some people don't do it. But this is about conformity. So I'll give you another study. They're called the ASH studies. And they'll have 9 participants saying they'll give you something very obvious. And they'll give you 2 lines. One line is much longer than the other. And all 9 people will say, they're all in on it, by the way. All 9 people will say that this line is longer than this line. They'll go through about 17 different trials, and they'll all say the truth. Then, from there, after that one, every one of them starts to say what? That this one is actually longer than this one. And it's right in front of the people, right in front of them. over 33% conform. It's right there in front of you because they don't have the courage to what? Stand up. So you're going to get 1 out of 3 people that's going to conform. 1 out of 3. Think about that. Talk about yes people, and especially then when you have someone of authority. Think of a doctor. Think of a lawyer. Think of a teacher. Think of anybody who has authority in terms of conformity. That's a whole nother level as well. So you have to also know how to play that line. Now, where is your moral code? If your moral beliefs are strong, and you know, like, this is wrong. I know it's wrong. Listen, my emotions are telling me it's something wrong. I know that. Then I have these 3 choices. I feel wrong. Here, let me take it back out. Some people will see it. They don't even feel anything. They're like, yeah, this is good. It's fine. That person is dead. Now, a person, then you have this option. You feel it. You feel there's something wrong. Number 2, your number 2 option is to say something about it. And number 3 option is actually to do something about it. This is not an easy thing to do. This is one of the most beautiful things when you see someone, let's say you see someone, you know those videos that somebody's yelling, like a mother's yelling and they're staging it. A mother's yelling at her daughter in the middle of a restaurant and a guy steps in or a woman steps in and she's like, what are you doing? You shouldn't treat her like that. And why? Because this is a moral character. They actually stepped into that place. So here it's very, very important that when you can actually display your character to people and you're not afraid of the consequences. This is adhering to your own belief structure, where your belief structure on the inside is manifest on the outside, and you don't change due to the situational conditions. That is key, but that's where you get tested. If you want to truly know if you believe in something, it's when you get tested. It's not when I believe it, man. I got it, bro. I don't care how big you are. I don't care how strong you are. It doesn't matter. Okay? When you're tested, that's going to show if you truly believe in something or not. And I'll share this with you guys, and we'll end with this. I was on my mentor was on a plane he saw him. He was carrying a book about God. And he said to him, he started following him around. And he's like, I want to talk to you. I just want to talk to you about God. You know, he was an atheist. So they go on the plane. He's like, I don't want to talk. So he sits down. The guy ends up sitting where? Right next to him. Of all people, ends up sitting next to him. And he still didn't want to talk to him. So anyways, as the plane was going up, the whole plane shifts to the left. And he hears this guy saying, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. So when you go to your core, when you go to the essence of who you are, you'll see where things really come out. When you're tested, it's not when you can talk. It's when you're actually tested. And some people will see it, they'll feel it, but they won't say anything or do anything. Some people will actually feel it, say something, but they won't do anything. Some people will actually feel it, say it, and actually do something about it. That's the highest level of morality, when you can actually change things by your hands. Okay? All right. Sounds good. I hope you guys are not bored. I hope this is cool. I hope your character is enough for you and you want to save your soul. And I'll stop preaching for today, but this is more of a preaching kind of session. But at the end of the day, anybody, any final comments, concerns? All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right, guys. See you next week. If you have any questions, comments.